And the exercise for today, which is, okay, great. Yeah, it's in your workbook if you have a workbook. Workbooks are in the front, right up in the front row here. Give you both one. Each couple needs to have their own thing to work off of. So if you only have one workbook per couple, then you're going to need... Oh, okay. Yeah, there you are. You're welcome. Anybody else? You guys have one or two workbooks? Do you have one or... Okay, this will be for you. Okay. Anyone else? And if you need a pen, raise your hand. Yes, the wish list. Could you pass pens out for me? Sandy, do you need a pen or one of those? Got it.
Are these not for everybody?
They can be for everyone. Would you like one?
Well, ours, is it the parenting one or is there two different ones?
There's not two different ones.
They're not, they're the same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
The workbooks were $5. If you feel blessed by the workbook and you would like to donate to the church, you're welcome to. If you're just here for the day and you don't want the whole workbook, we've got the exercises. Just raise your hand if you need any of these. And we also have pens. All right. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our Prepare and Enrich workshop. So glad you're here. Of all the workshops, if you were going to miss one, I'm glad you didn't miss this one. This is the most important probably of all the workshops because it lays at the foundation of everything else you face as a couple. Communication is necessary if you're going to work through anything. So if you've been looking at your reports and you've seen some low areas in your reports, number one, I want you to know that that's normal. There are... anytime you get two different minds living together, you're going to have areas where you don't see or function the same way or eye to eye. So that's normal. It's normal for there to be multiple areas where the report said you need you can grow in. So that's normal, and the basis for all of your relationship is going to be communication. If you have good communication, you can work through conflicts. If you have good communication, you can work through and talk about finances. If you have good communication, you can work through any of the other issues that you're trying to work through. And conversely, if your communication isn't the best, then it's going to affect all the other areas of your marriage together, your relationship. So what you should see is that raising one area of your report will affect the other areas of your report. It will naturally benefit the other areas. It takes work, it takes practice, it takes intentionality, it takes you getting out of your comfort zone. The ways that I'm going to teach you to communicate here in this workshop are going to be so unfamiliar to you and feel so out of place. you're going to want to throw that workbook at me and walk out of here and say, there's just no way, Pastor. Human beings don't communicate this way. Stick it through. Okay, my advice to you is stick it through. Go through the hard steps. Stick with the steps that I give you on how to communicate. As unnatural as it feels, you need to break out. Many of us need to break out of how we are used to communicating in the way it feels most comfortable because it's dysfunctional. We're going to talk a little bit more about communication in just a little bit. And if I forget, don't let me forget to talk to you about BTW. You know what that's short for, right? Okay, so you won't forget. I've got BTW is going to be another acronym, but don't let me forget BTW specifically when we're going to demonstrate how this communication thing works. Let me kind of show you what we're going to cover today. The first thing we're going to look at is a 2-minute video. It's a cute little video on communication. Then we're going to immediately break into group discussion. You're going to see group numbers, and I'd like 4 to 6 individuals to kind of group together and have a group discussion. I'll share the questions with you on the screen, but we're going to have a group discussion that will go for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to introduce you to the topic of communication, and we're going to do a live role play up here. And I'm going to ask for volunteers. It does not have to be husband and wife. It can be anyone, any age, really anyone up here to demonstrate. And we're going to demonstrate how to active listening and how to assertively communicate. And those are the 2 portions to communication. And I'm going to coach whoever comes up here. I'm going to coach you through it. Don't worry, I'm not going to be harsh at all, but I'll coach you through it, and it will be helpful for everyone to kind of see the coaching and see how the communication works. So think about it. I'm going to need 2 people to volunteer, otherwise I'm going to be going back and forth between the seats, which will be kind of schizophrenic. Then we're going to practice this exercise. And for those who are online or joining us later on, you're going to want to open your workbook. This exercise will be in your workbook. It is creating a wish list. You cannot do this alone, so you're going to need to pair up with your partner and do this with your partner. It is on page 5 of your workbook. So we're going to practice page 5, page 6. We're going to practice creating a wish list, and you're going to be able to share your wish list with each other. Then we're going to come back after about 10 minutes of practice. We're going to come back and you're going to share your feedback. How did it go? What were some of your struggles? What were some of the things that didn't make sense? We're going to process that together, and then you're going to have another opportunity to practice that communication strategy one more time. We'll come back for group feedback, questions, and then we'll have our closing suggestions and practice exercise that you can take home with you. The month of January is the month of communication. Did you know that? So this is the month we get to practice that together. But first, let's look at a couple who are trying to communicate together just now.
There's all this pressure, you know?
Let's try it again. Ready?
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't.
Try to see things my way.
You ever feel like communication goes like that sometimes? You see things one way, she sees things another. Maybe she sees things one way, you see them another, and the communication is just like not happening. So communication is important. And here's what I'd like you to discuss in your groups. What does it take to be a good communicator? What does it take to be a good listener? How do you feel when healthy communication has occurred? And how do you feel when it hasn't? So find a group location. There's group 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way back. Try and group together in groups of 3 couples. If we need to, we can go to 4 couples and ask that question. And we'll do about 10 minutes for a group discussion on this question here. Hey. 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. We've got 1 minute left. You should start wrapping up your discussions and choosing a spokesman or spokeswoman for your group. All right, our time is done for our group session. If I can have your attention up here. Researchers have asked people, married couples, and couples who are looking to get married, what makes for a great marriage and what makes for a happy marriage? 90% of couples say what makes for a great marriage is being in love. Well, you're not a very romantic group of people. 90% say being in love, which can set you up to all sorts of issues, because many researchers say that those initial feelings of love that you get right before you get married, when you're in the dating phase, after you get married, lasts about 3 months. At about the 3-month mark, and some researchers say it could last as long as 2 years. But between 3 months and 2 years, your feelings of being in love are about half of what they were when you first started dating together. And what do most people think, or many couples think, when the love or the feelings of love begin to go down? Many begin to worry. Am I not in love any longer? You need more than love for a happy marriage. Most couples will spend 6 years of being unhappy before getting help. And so, Prepare and Enrich has done research with thousands and thousands and thousands of couples, and they've come up with 10 core areas that really affect the happiness of a marriage. Sure, love needs to be present. There needs to be attraction. There needs to be some sort of spark, at least initially, so that you know you can get it back later. But there are 10 other areas that need to be present in a relationship, and these 10 areas, everyone doesn't come automatically skilled in and can really affect your relationships. Those areas are communication, conflict resolution, partner style and habits, financial management, leisure activities, intimacy and affection, family and friends, relationship roles, children and parenting, and spiritual beliefs. If you are not seeing eye to eye in any one of these areas, or you do not have the skills or the foundation in any one of these areas, it will impact your relationship. And so, the good news is that once you get the skills in each one of these areas, your relationship will be positively impacted. You don't have to wait to fall in love again. You don't have to wait for the feelings of love to come back. You can begin to work on things in your relationship right now, and the happiness and the contentment of your relationship will improve and will increase. So, and that spark can come again. It can be rekindled. But of all the areas, the number one area that affects marriage contentment and happiness the most is communication. Henry David Thoreau said it takes 2 to speak the truth, 1 to speak, and another to hear. A Prepare and Enrich study with 50,000 couples found communication was the number one predictor of marital happiness. Not love or being in love, not even the amount of contention or conflicts that a couple has. They actually found in their research that couples that are highly conflicted, in other words, they have lots of conflict, but they're able to communicate effectively, are satisfied and happy and have a report having a great marriage relationship, even though they may not see eye to eye. And the prime example of this is my grandparents on my mother's side. My grandmother was a Republican. My grandfather was a Democrat. They did not see eye to eye on hardly anything. It probably was played well into their relationship that Grandpa was a total phlegmatic, so he didn't care what happened. But communication was a key to their relationship and was a key, I think, to showing that highly conflicted couples can still have a really, really great relationship. So, communication. What does it take to be a good communicator, and what does it take to be a good listener? What did your groups kind of go over? Just raise your hand. I've got 2 helpers on either side, and we'd like to just kind of share some feedback. And if you can go right back here to Lolita. And is there anyone on this side who would like to raise their hand? Okay, and Nick in the back. Go ahead, Lolita.
We decided that patience was a big one, and being able to taking the time to state what the other person heard. Because in work, in relationships, what people hear and what you say are often terribly different things.
Yeah, that's really, really important and great advice, which slows the conversation down if you don't just respond. If you have to take the time to repeat what you heard the other person say, it can be very frustrating because guess what? That person's not even finished. They're halfway through their sentence and I already know what I'm going to say. Anybody can relate? You already know what the answer is. But you got to slow it down and repeat what the other person has said so that you make sure you're responding to what they're actually saying. Okay, Nick. Chul.
Having the microphone, having the floor, having uninterrupted, being able to say what you need to say without being interrupted was one of the aspects.
Yes, that's right. It's quite difficult to communicate if you can't communicate.
Language.
Yes, very good. What about being a good listener? Or how do you feel when healthy communication has occurred? Any of the other groups like to share? Okay, back here with Joy.
Okay, what does it take to be a good listener and not to cut off when someone is talking? And you need to wait patiently, full attention. And sometimes nowadays we have a social media, and let's say a husband or wife talking to you and you're like, you don't pay attention, you're busy on the phone. So to be a good listener, you need to put aside and then listen to your spouse. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Take one more.
So we had several things come up similar. Patience, I think, was the first one. Takes patience to be a good listener. Make eye contact. Don't multitask.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. Totally. You ever been in this position? Can't communicate. Do you remember what the acronym was that I told you to remember? BTW, which stands for body language, tone, words. In that order. When you go into a conversation with somebody, 80% of what you say is said before you say it. So, if I go into a conversation like this, or if I go into a conversation like this, my body language communicates way before the actual words have started. What sort of body language should you enter into with your spouse when you're communicating? Yeah. Don't cross your arms. Don't look over your eyeglasses. Usually, if you're going to have a conversation where it's going to be a conversation for a while, you want to find a place where you both can sit down comfortably. And I told one couple that I was counseling, he always sat in the recliner like this, kind of with his back half turned to his wife. I said, dude, how in the world are you going to communicate like that? Like, she's going to feel like you don't care anything about what she has to say. So what should he change? Okay, first thing, sit up. Second thing, turn towards your partner. I know this may sound intuitive now, but it's not always intuitive to people. You need to turn to your partner, and you need to lean in just a little bit. This all communicates what you have to say is important, and I'm ready to listen. That is the B, which stands for body language. If there's an issue between you and your spouse or somebody else in communication, first think to yourself, what is my body language conveying? Am I distant, standoffish? Am I open and relaxed? Am I defensive and ready to fight? What are the sort of facial expressions that I'm wearing on my face? All of that can set you up for failure in communication. And some of you are saying right now, I give up. Don't give up. This is where it takes practice. So the first one is body language. The next is tone. How much energy are you bringing into the conversation? If I've told you 1,000 times, I've told you 1,000,000. Versus, I've got something that I'd like to discuss. Do you have a moment? The tone that I come into the conversation with is really going to, the other person's going to match my energy level, right? So what sort of tone am I coming to with this this interaction, this conversation? If I want combativeness, you can bet I'm going to get it if I bring combativeness. If I bring defensiveness, I'm going to get defensiveness. If I bring, what does the Bible say? A soft answer turns away wrath. That's right. So begin with a soft voice and begin with a respectful approach. Do you have time to sit down and talk? I have something I'd really like to talk about. Or maybe the approach goes something like this. I can tell that something's bothering you. Would you like to sit down and talk together? These sorts of approaches will help set your communication up for success. Body language, tone, and words. After you've checked your body language and your tone, now you're ready to communicate. And communication has never occurred. Communication has never occurred unless both people have had an opportunity to share and have their perspective heard. If only one person shares and one person listens, communication hasn't occurred. So there's two things that need to happen for communication. If you have your workbook, yep. Take out your workbook, page 5, and anytime you have a question over anything I say, just raise your hand. Yeah, can I have a microphone up here briefly? Our esteemed deacons, deaconites, thank you.
There's this book called Crucial Conversations, and it talks about that you have to have safety in order for people to fill the pool of meaning. So I may have my opinion and someone else has their opinion, but if they don't feel safe to share their opinion, then they're going to give you the silent treatment, and then you can't have your conversation. So somehow you need to try to make them feel comfortable to share their perspective, and that's probably part of the act of listening. And you can't just beat them up as soon as they share their thoughts and shut them down. they're not going to talk anymore. But anyway, that book is awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Crucial conversations. Write that down. Okay, so there's two things that are part of healthy communication. Number one is assertiveness, and number two is active listening. What is assertiveness? We're on page 5 of your workbook. Assertiveness is the ability to express your feelings and ask for what you want in the relationship. Someone may say, well, I don't want to be too demanding, or I feel like I'm being demanding, or I feel like I'm just trying to get what I want. I'm supposed to give. If you're going to have a happy relationship, you cannot get what you want if you don't express your feelings, your thoughts, and your wants. We cannot enter into a relationship assuming that the other person can read your mind, because they can't. They do not know what you feel, what you think, what's going through your mind, what you want. Like, they can't even guess. You have to go into the situation assuming that the person can't read anything. All they can do is hear what you say. Now, I know some people maybe feel like they can read their spouse really well, and great. You probably have picked up different cues that you can tell by that look or by that tomato flying across the kitchen that something's wrong. But for most, you need to have assertiveness and active listening. So, assertiveness is a valuable communication skill. In successful couples, both individuals tend to be quite assertive. Rather than assuming their partner can read their minds, they share how they feel and ask clearly and directly for what they want. Assertive individuals take responsibility for their messages by using I statements. And this is really, really, really important. If you're going to share what you want, you cannot use accusatory statements. You always, you are, you got to start with I. I feel, I want, I am. I statements helps, like you mentioned, Lou, create a safe space because I'm not on the warpath. I'm simply telling you where I am and I'm wanting to be understood. So an example of this would be, I'm feeling out of balance. While I love spending time with you, I also want to spend time with my friends. I would like us to find some time to talk about this. I want to take a ski vacation next winter, but I know you like to go to the beach. I'm feeling confused about what choice we should make. Can we talk about this? So that's assertiveness. Active listening. Active listening is the ability to let your partner know you understand them by restating their message. Good communication depends on your carefully listening to another person. Usually a listening statements would start off with, so what I heard you say was, and you repeat exactly what the other person stated. And you do that over and over and over again until the individual says, yes, that's what I'm saying. And you do not switch roles until you've checked with them and asked, do you feel understood? Do you feel like I understand you? That's your goal as an active listener, is for the other person to say, I feel understood. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do a role play. Any person, any age, this stool or this stool. Just raise your hand. Slowly, please. Nicole, you'll be one? Need a second volunteer? Jewel, great. Come on up. Pink or green, doesn't matter. Are these on? Yes? Yes? All right, thank you so much.
Do we get extra points since we're married?
You do.
Woohoo.
Bonus points. Okay. So, what are they going to discuss? I've got some options, and you get to decide. Disagreement on household chores, setting boundaries with extended family, feeling unappreciated, managing time together and apart, financial decisions, handling different parenting styles, addressing a forgotten agreement, planning a vacation, need for support during a stressful time. Planning a vacation? Okay.
All right.
Where should they go? Somewhere warm. Tell me a warm place. Aruba.
All right.
Don't they speak Dutch in Aruba? I think they do. They speak Dutch. Okay, so Aruba. They're going to Aruba. And but here's the problem. Only one of you wants to go to Aruba. Where do you want to go, Nicole?
Home. Just stay home.
Okay. Chul wants to go to Aruba, and Nicole wants to stay at home. The goal is both partners assert their preferences clearly and listen actively to find a middle ground or come up with a plan that respects both desires. Okay. We are going to have Chul start off as the active or the assertive communicator, and Nicole is going to be the active listener. Now, when you start off, what are the three things you need to look at? B is body language. Let's look at that first. Okay, you're doing pretty good. Tone is the next one, so make sure that you're not yelling at each other. And then words. So we're going to start with Chul, since he's the communicator right now, the assertive person who's going to be speaking. And Nicole, for active listening, you're going to listen to him to describe where he wants to go, what he wants to do, and then you're going to say, what I hear you saying is, and repeat back everything that he said. You ready? Okay. Chul, you want to go to Aruba. Why don't you share your dream vacation with Nicole?
You know, we live in North Idaho, and it's January. It's cold. Why don't we go somewhere warm like Aruba?
Okay, so now you say, so what I hear you saying is...
So what I hear you saying is it's too cold where we are and you want to go to Aruba to warm up?
Is that correct?
Is that correct?
That's pretty close, man.
Okay, so here's something you want to pick up on. When somebody says it's pretty close, what does that mean? Did they hit the nail on the head? Not quite. These are little key words that let you know that the person does not feel totally heard. They just feel like it's their responsibility to move on in the conversation. So, when somebody says pretty close, you should say, could you say that again so that I can give it another try? Okay, go ahead and say that.
Oh, sorry, that was my role?
Yes.
What was it again?
Can you say that again so that I can give it another try?
Can you say what you just said again so I can give it another try?
Sure. Yeah, we live in, I don't even remember what I said. Yeah, we live in North Idaho in January.
Okay. Pause. If somebody asks you to say it again and you don't know the exact words that you said, it's okay. You actually don't have to remember everything verbatim. Just say what you feel again. Because the main thing is that you want to be understood. And being understood, I know we don't like the word feeling a lot. We're more intellectual, but being understood is actually more about somebody caring about how you feel. So what's happening behind Chul's statement is, I'm cold, I don't like the cold, I want to be somewhere warm, and I would love to spend it with you. I really would like to be somewhere I want to be, but I want to be there with you. That's what he's trying to communicate. And so she needs to pair it back to him. Oh, so what I hear you saying is, you don't like the cold, you want to be somewhere warm, but you want to be there together. Is that right? Even if it's not the exact same words, if she catches how he feels, she will have hit the nail on the head, and he will say, exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. And your goal is to continue to move through the conversation until you get to that place where the other person says, yes, you understand me, that's how I feel. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, give it a try.
So actually, because you didn't say exactly what I said, that's why I said it was pretty close, but you got it right.
But give it another try.
We do live in North Idaho, and where it's cold and it's January, and Aruba would sound really nice right now.
What I hear you saying.
So what I hear you saying is that you would like to go to Aruba because it's warm and...
No, wait, let her try. If you've lost it, it's okay. You may have to do this several rounds. It takes practice to be a good listener. Our minds naturally just kind of go off. And mine does it, everyone's does it. So all you have to do is say, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
I don't know what towards you with that. Okay. Can I just try it again?
No, go ahead and say, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? This is good practice.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Can you please repeat it again?
I'll try, but it's changing in my mind every time too. But it's cold, and we live in North Idaho, and Aruba would sound really nice right now.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that you would prefer not to have vacation here in North Idaho because it's cold, that you would like to go to Aruba because it's warmer.
Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then you end this part of the exchange by saying, do you feel heard?
Do you feel heard?
Yes.
Great. Anybody here that kind of feels unnatural? Great. It's going to feel unnatural. And it's going to slow the conversation down to painful levels. But once you master this interchange right here, it will stop feeling unnatural, and it will start feeling like, oh, this is how conversations are supposed to work. Wow, we are saving so much time. We're not misunderstanding each other. We're not talking past each other any longer. We're actually getting to the place where we're able to understand one another and understand what each other feels, and we both feel heard. We're actually flying through conversations where before we used to spend 2 hours talking about something as simple as going to Aruba. And that's why. The reason that we go round and round and round and round is because we do not take the time to listen to one another and really hear what the other person is saying. Okay, so now that we've completed this, now it's your turn to talk.
Oh, gosh.
But Nicole, before you talk, and this is another secret, you want to ask for permission. And the reason why is if you get permission from the other person, they're telling you that they're willing to listen to you. So it would go, okay, we'll go back to body language. Okay, come back around. So what you're going to say is, do you mind if I share some of my perspectives?
Do you mind if I share some of my perspectives now?
Not at all.
Thank you.
All right, so now you share your perspective about Aruba.
Aruba sounds really nice, but I'm not much of a traveler, and I would rather stay home and get stuff done at home that we never seem to have time to do.
Okay, what I hear you saying.
So what I hear you saying is that you're not really much of a traveler, and you'd rather stay home and do things at home that we don't normally get to do. Is that correct?
So you can say
That's
no.
a 50-50.
Okay, so what you would just say is not quite.
Not quite all of it.
Okay, so
Okay.
You want to try again?
Please tell me again then, because I didn't get it.
Okay. Aruba sounds nice to go visit because it's warm, but I'd rather stay home this vacation because we have so many chores and responsibilities to do that we never seem to have time to do.
Okay, so you're saying, do I understand that you're saying you don't want to go to Aruba because you would rather stay home and do chores? Sorry. I can't do that. That's not
I
good.
didn't communicate that one very well. I guess I can see where you got that.
Good. And you know, this is perfect because sometimes what we say and the person repeats back to us verbatim what we say, and we realize, oh, I miscommunicated. I didn't mean to communicate things that way. I need to try it again. And that's why it's more about your feeling rather than the exact words. Does that make sense? Okay, so you got to try it again, Nicole.
Okay. I'd prefer to stay home for vacation instead of going to Aruba because we have so many things that we need to get done at home that we never have time to do.
Okay, so do I understand that you said that you'd rather
Use
not?
these words. What I hear you saying.
What
And
I
you're
hear-
going to repeat that 1,000
Should I hold
times.
that?
What I hear you saying. Thank you, sorry.
So what I hear you saying is that you would rather not go to Aruba so that we can stay home and get some of the chores done that we need to do.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Do you feel heard?
Oh, do I?
Do you feel heard? Do you feel understood? That's what you ask her. Do you feel like I've heard you?
Do you feel like I've understood you?
Yes.
I've heard you? Okay.
Okay. How did it feel?
Good.
Yeah. It slows things down, but once you're able to feel understood, it really, really like hits you at a core. It's like, wow. And maybe for some of you, this will be like, wow, this is amazing communication. Others of you may be like, yeah, we do this all the time at home. Yeah, right. But I'm hoping that it will be beneficial. So now's the time. Thank you, Jewel. Thank you, Nicole. You did a great job. Now's the time where you get to practice with one another. I'd like you to go ahead and take out your workbook or this, and you're going to turn to your partner, and we're going to have you create a wish list. In this exercise, you will each individually make a wish list of things you would like more of or less of in your relationship. Each one of you are going to write 3 things down that you want more of or less of in your relationship. And after you've written them down, I'd like you to take turns being assertive and sharing your list. And the other person's going to listen, do active listening, just as you saw it role played up front. And then you're going to switch. What question do you have to ask before you switch? Do you feel heard? Do you feel understood? Okay? So go ahead and do that now. We're going to do 10 minutes of practicing, and then we're going to get some feedback. We'll give you one more minute to just kind of wrap off your thoughts together. All right, let's go ahead and regroup here. You will have an opportunity to keep going through this list. I know that you are having a wonderful time. So just take a pause for a moment. This is a point where you can kind of give a little bit of feedback. How's it working for you? What's new? What's difficult? What's confusing about this way of talking? Is there anything that's relieving or frustrating? Let's go ahead and get some feedback. You can also ask questions like, how exactly, or what were the words that you said? And after we do a short feedback session, then we're going to go back to finishing your practice in your list there, and hopefully we can get through it. Okay, Evan, if you can get the microphone back here to Pastor Wolberg.
Yeah, I just had a practical question. Is this feedback, those bullet points, something we're just supposed to do as couples or in our group?
Right here, right now, out loud. So this is just
see.
your feedback after you've talked with your spouse, like, you know what? It was new to me to listen the way that I was forced to listen. I'd never done that before. I thought it was quite difficult. I was a little confused because I forgot the words that you used. What were those words again? It was really relieving to, for the first time, be able to share how I actually felt about this issue. I was frustrated the whole time my partner talked because I couldn't say a thing. So just some of that feedback, how did you feel practicing this for 10 minutes? What were your initial feelings regarding this sort of conversation? Was there anything confusing to you? Anything new, difficult? Give me some feedback and allow me to kind of respond directly to you from up front. In some ways, this is like counseling with 50 people. Okay, Nick. Josiah? Yeah, Josiah, if you can bring the mic to Nick. The mic to Nick.
I thought it was interesting to reflect on how many assumptions I make in communication. I think I anticipate commonly, and my anticipations are poor. So it was good to just see it for myself when it's not a heated moment, to see the anticipation that I do that negatively affects my ability to communicate.
Yeah, great comment. Really good comment. And really insightful. This lets you know kind of where you are. Because otherwise you're communicating blind, right, Nick? Like, you don't know unless you slow down. You don't know that you're assuming. You think everything that you see is just how it is. And that's how it is for all of us. Like, we see what we see because that's how our brain processes the information. It's not your fault. It isn't. But there is something you can do to correct the errors that aren't your fault. And that is just slow down and say, here's what I heard you say. Is that correct? Okay, anyone else? Okay, Josiah, if you can bring the microphone to Robert. Oh, and then we got Kevin over here after Robert.
Okay, so I'm going to give a little background. Rob and I have been together about 8 years. I had done this exercise before in a previous marriage, and the way she would respond in my previous marriage was very condescending. It was not heartfelt. Rob and I were speaking, so we have...
And that would have to do with tone.
Tone.
Yes. Bring
Robin
your microphone up a little bit,
and I were talking
please.
about, we have some friends, close
Bring your
friends, who grew up in Hawaii. They're going to be going to Hawaii, would like us to join them. And she didn't respond to me verbatim what I said, but actually what she did do was elaborate. She understood exactly what I said, but she actually elaborated on that point because I had said that for a Hawaiian trip, I would rather spend the time with the Hawaiian people, not in a resort type thing. And then she actually relayed to me that she understood that and then elaborated further on other things I didn't bring up that we could do. So generally our communication is quite well, but yeah, sometimes I can read her mind though.
Yes. And just a comment on that, if your spouse or the person who's listening repeats back what they heard you say and then adds commentary, active listening has not happened. And the reason is because you have not tried to make sure the other person felt understood. All you've done is you've checked a box that I've repeated everything you said. See, done. Now I can get on with what I want to say. And that's not the point of listening. The point of listening is not to repeat verbatim what the other person said, even though that's pretty close to it. The real purpose is to understand how the other person feels and to make sure that the other person feels understood before you share your point of view. And until that happens, the communication has not effectively taken place. Kevin.
Okay, so we decided to tackle several problems that we have been having.
At the same time?
Yeah, we've been having some difficulties in our understanding.
Okay.
And we decided that after 32 years of communication that it's kind of difficult to change exactly going this way, but we did come to the understanding that we do understand each other. It's just we're too stubborn to give up our ideas. So we do feel like each other hears each other. But
yes.
So we decided to concede on some of those and try to meet halfway. So I don't. No, we don't need to say what. But
no, don't give specifics. It's okay.
So when you're so far into the marriage like we are, I just don't. I don't know if we can change to slowing it down when we feel that we already understand each other. It's just what's the problem is that it's another problem there that we're both stubborn individuals. You can slow it down and you can change, but it's going to be extremely difficult because you spent your entire life communicating one way. And to change is almost for you to have to step outside of your identity. Because the way you communicate, that's who you are. And it feels like you're speaking or listening in a way that's not you. This isn't me. I don't communicate this way. I don't talk this way. And you are exactly right. Very few people do. But that is why this exercise was created, is you have to be willing to face the uncomfortable and try it over and over and over again. Let me tell you, when Nicole and Chul, when you were up here and had to repeat back and forth several times, didn't that feel uncomfortable? Probably really uncomfortable in front of everyone, right? It feels uncomfortable, it feels unnatural, and you are naturally tempted to say, let's just skip ahead. Let's just move past this. Let's not wait and go through the steps. But if you skip ahead, if you move ahead, you're not going to learn a foundation in communication that is going to make everything a lot better. And I guess I would also say this. If you both agree that what you're doing is what you both prefer, no problem. Like that is, like you both have to be happy. Just know that there is another level that you could reach if you put forth the time, energy, and effort to follow through those steps and not skip them. And the temptation to skip the steps is going to be very high. Okay. Any other feedback? What was relieving? What was frustrating? What was confusing, difficult, or new?
Yeah.
Haley, if you can go to the back there. Go ahead, Steve.
I just have a curiosity question. In a normal day, husbands and wives talk to each other regularly, hopefully.
Yes.
How often in this model should the restating of what the other person is saying occur? Every time you have a conversation in the kitchen about doing the dishes, or?
As soon as you realize that a misunderstanding is taking place, as soon as you realize that the conversation is getting to a difficult place and you're not able to process through information like you would like to, that's when you need to implement this procedure. When you're just going about your daily business, you don't need to talk this way, at Walmart. So, honey, how do you feel about cucumbers? What I hear you saying is that you have deep feelings about cucumbers. Is that correct? No, I just want to know. You don't have to have that sort of communication. But you're in Walmart and it's like, how do you feel about us making salad? Well, I don't like salad. What? You don't like salad? I've told you this for years. Okay, that's the time. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, this is one of those moments where we need to slow things down. There's a misunderstanding going on here. He doesn't like salad. She missed it. There's a misunderstanding. At that moment, you say, honey, do you mind if when we get home, we just spend a few minutes talking through this together? And then you go into a room, you sit down, and you slow it down to the practice that I just gave you. That's when you implement it, because that's when you need it. That's when a person, obviously there's not understanding going on, there needs to be understanding. Nick, and then we'll come up here to Lou.
I appreciated the structure of having to sit here and think about, what are some things that we would like to talk about? Because, usually we kind of just do this on the fly. As something comes up, you deal with it. But it was really insightful to have to sit here and think and hear the little things that haven't bubbled to the surface yet that we needed to communicate about, and we didn't even realize it. And so that was helpful.
Awesome. That's great. You might think about doing this once a month, just creating a short wish list and sitting down together and talking through it. It allows you to continue that sort of maintenance and gives you, like you were mentioning, some structure to be able to work through the little issues before they become bigger issues. Lou. Microphone. Can you bring that up, Junior? Or Josiah? Thank you. Right here to Lou. Thank you.
So...
You sure can.
I'm confused as to why you would like be in the middle of a tense moment and say, hey, can we talk about this in 20 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days? Like, why not try to deal with it right then? Like, maybe there's a reason for being patient, but it just seems to me like the time from the tense moment to the solution or the conversation is going to be a Cold War. So why not just solve the Cold War?
Yeah. If you can, it's great, but you're not always in the position where you can do that. There's several things that can affect the timing of this conversation. Number one, how heated are you? How heated is the other individual? When you have strong emotions, it impairs your ability to see and think and communicate clearly. Those emotions need to come down if they're quite high. Otherwise, you're going to escalate the situation to maybe a worse position. So I recommend to couples and sort of many counselors that if you feel yourself beginning to like uncontrollably raise your voice and you feel your blood pressure rising, you start having thoughts of pounding the furniture, that's a good clue that, hey, I'm not in a position right now where I'm fully in control. Maybe I'm 90% in control, but I'm not fully. Can we talk about this in 10 minutes? And 10 minutes usually is enough for somebody to just breathe, think through things without the pressure of the moment, and come back and talk more rationally. The ideal would be in the moment, if you can. For families, sometimes you've got children who are in the middle of bathing or the middle of a homework assignment or something, and you say, hey, let's do this in 5 minutes. Let's do this in 10 minutes. The Bible's counsel is don't go to bed with this issue. So try and solve the issue before you retire for the evening, but it may take scheduling a moment in time, 10 minutes from now, an hour from now, to deal with the issue. But if you're able to deal with it right there and you're able to deal with it calmly, that's the best time because everything's fresh. Silvana? Thank you, Haley.
So Ellen White has a counsel about how to treat kids when you are irritable or you have emotions, and I think will apply to this case. She said, I never ever went and discussed with my child if I was emotional. I told him or her, I will talk later, and I went in another room and I prayed and I got calmed down. So I think that will apply to everything. When we feel that how you said, we cannot control emotions, we just need to go to calm down or go for a walk and then come back if the problem needs to be resolved right away.
Yeah. So taking a relationship time out is a good thing, and you should be able, as a spouse, to be able to pull that card and say, I need a 10-minute timeout. I'm not fully in control, or I don't feel you're fully in control. Can we just take a timeout and come back in 10 minutes? I need that. Okay, Haley, could you bring the microphone back to, what was your name? Paul. Thank you, Paul. And then Gail, why don't you go ahead and share? And then Paul, can you hold your comment for just 1 second? Gail, we'll go with you first, and then Paul.
I thought it was frustrating for myself when we were doing this. I read mine to Abby, and I felt like she understood me. But when she was telling me what she wanted in our relationship, I would get defensive feeling. Defensive feelings? Yeah. Like, why are you picking on me? And that happens a lot. And I was just, if you had any like comments on like help with that.
There's two reasons. There could be a couple reasons for that. One is, are you using I statements? I feel. Are you making it about yourself, or are you making it about the other person? So when you're communicating what you want, you make it about the other person. So one way of saying it is, you always squeeze the toothpaste tube from the middle of the tube, leaving half the toothpaste on the bottom and half on the top, and it drives me crazy. Why do you always do that? Can't you do it right? Versus, I am really bothered when I find the toothpaste squeezed from the middle. I don't know why. It messes with my head. I see it as a very small adjustment that could be made it would make an enormous deal to me. Like, if I came in and saw the toothpaste squeezed from the bottom, it would bring so much peace to my heart. What you've done is you've made it about you and your feelings rather than about the other person and their problem. And that takes practice to be an assertive speaker, but making sure that you share your feelings rather than sharing the other person's problems with them. So that's one reason that you could be taking it defensively. Another reason is it could be triggers. Triggers are things that a person says that remind you, or things that a person does, or even their body language or their tone that reminds you of some other previous disagreement that you've had with them or with somebody else. And if it's a trigger, if you rationally recognize that the person is not saying anything that's really an issue, you're just being triggered, then express that. Just say, right now, I'm taking what you're saying very personally, and I think it's probably a trigger for me. I'm going to try and work past these emotions and repeat back to you what you're saying, but I just want you to know that I'm in a vulnerable place, or I'm in a place where I'm feeling just attacked right now, and I'm going to try to overcome those feelings, but just be gentle and patient with me, because that's where I'm at right now. And that kind of lets the other person know, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong, but I've hit a trigger, and I'm going to need to figure out what that trigger was.
Thank you.
Yeah. 10 more minutes. Turn to your partner, finish off your list. Oh, Paul. Paul, before we...
Yeah, I was just thinking of communication. I think we should really understand that our feelings and emotions are the devil's playground.
Our what?
Are the devil's playground.
Oh, sure.
Our senses and how he plays with us. And the good Lord said, let us come reason together. That's his method. So in this communication process, and what we're all talking about is reasoning, really.
Yeah. That's really true and really sound advice. But I just caution you not to go to the extreme of discounting feelings, because feelings, whatever they're based on, are real. And a person, if you can validate a person's feelings, or at least understand their feelings, it gives them the ability to move past those feelings easier than if those feelings are just discounted. So do your best to understand, and as much as you can, validate the other person's feelings. That will help you in your communication. Okay, let's have you continue your list. We're going to do that one more time, 10 minutes. We'll do a final feedback, and then we're done. And if we can do the classical music again, that would be great. Thank you. Can I get you something? Yeah. Do you want pens? Do you want pens? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've read a portion of it. Hey, Jeremy, can you shut off my microphone? Thank you. wrap up. All right. Final feedback. How was today's workshop for you? Was it helpful? Good. This workshop and these workshops are not meant to solve all the little issues. There may be some of you who you're trying to work through issues even here and you're running into roadblocks. It's okay. It may mean that you need a coach to actually sit down with the two of you, kind of like I was with Chul and Nicole. You know, this is how you listen. This is how you assertively share your feelings and back and forth. You may need somebody to coach. We call them a counselor, right? You may need a counselor to sit down and work through some of those issues with you. That's okay. Find those issues where you need a personal counselor, and you can either find a personal counselor on your own, or what we're able to do here at the church is in the month of March 2 through 15, I'm bringing a Christian counselor, Seventh-day Adventist counselor from Boise, Idaho. He's driving 8 hours up here, and he's going to spend 2 weeks providing free counseling to those couples that need counseling. His counseling is going to be intense. It's going to mean a commitment on your part. So really, this should be for couples who they just are running into a brick wall and they cannot move past. Like they've done everything and they just cannot move past this brick wall. You can move past it, but you may need some help. He's going to take 2 to 3 couples 1 week, and your commitment is 3 hours a day for 1 week. I know it's a commitment, but it may take that amount of time to get through all of the different issues. He's going to take one couple from 9 to noon, and another couple from 1 to 3, and maybe another couple in the evening. Maybe it takes less time. He's going to reserve 3 hours each day for a couple, and we're going to have him for 2 weeks. So he'll be able to take 4 to 6 couples and bring them through their some of the more difficult issues that they're facing. I want you to know that as a church, we're going to do everything we can to support the couples in our church. We want strong families because we know that strong families make a strong church. So with that, let's spend our last couple minutes sharing what you gained out of the seminar, the workshop today. What was something new? What was something relieving? Are there any questions that you have? Let's have some final thoughts. If you can raise your hand, we'll have our very attentive deaconites looking out for your raised hands. Okay, right up here, Josiah. If you can bring it to Dr. Esperescu here.
Thank you. So on the frustrating and he mentioned like triggers. I know for me a trigger is if you feel there's any sarcasm where they repeat back, but there's just that little tinge of the eye flick or the tone that doesn't feel right. That can be very frustrating with this model. And then a second thing in the back, he commented on feelings, but we are very emotional beings. And one of the things in the book, Crucial Conversations, that really struck to me was leading with the fact. So I really try to do that now. So instead of, because most of us are tempted, you're so stupid because, right? So you start off with the conclusion, you know, especially in a heated debate where you want to go quick, you'll start with the judgment, like at first, but instead we should flip that around and start with, okay, so this happened, that happened, that happened. Well, to me it would seem, you know, my reading of that is this, instead of, you know, jumping with the judgment.
Yes.
So I think we do that a lot, and those are triggers when you jump to a judgment, because now the other person takes it personally, and now you just got to fight, and listening is stopped, and there's no communication happening.
Great comment. Lou.
I liked having this 3 wishes thing and the suggestion of doing it once a month. I think that's a great idea because there's always things that you want to talk about, but you never have time to talk about. But if you have the structure that you're going to always talk about something, then you're going to have to eventually talk about the stuff that you really want to talk about.
First weekend of the month, if you need to choose. Like, just make it a habit. Josiah. We got one more right up here. And then Silvana.
So this was a really good exercise because we got a chance to identify how we communicate, and it's been going really well. But we did this exercise last week, I think, and I did put, well, I'd like to walk our dog more, but I would like to use trails, go to find trails rather than walk around the street. And on the way here, I mentioned, oh, look at all the snow up there at Schweiss Street. We haven't even been there yet. And he goes, well, why don't we take Bo for a walk and play in the snow on Monday? Because we're both off. I'm like, that's a great idea. So he remembered what we had talked about, and it just kind of flowed.
Awesome. Awesome. Silvana.
So, how Kevin said before, we kind of realized that we don't have problems with communication because we communicate a lot. But what I want to say is that sometimes maybe you don't get the right words or the question, but you can have a principle in your mind. That is the principle we are reading now, a book we just got it. It's a Christian book, The Sixth Conversation, Pathways to Connecting in an Age of Isolation and Incivility. So in this book, the author says, you always need to think, do I communicate in love?
Yes.
Do I communicate with care? So if every time I'm thinking, okay, do I have love and care now in what I'm saying to my husband? Then even if you forget all those questions and all those technical, let's say, cues that you are giving to us, then we are not going to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. And then another thing is, a few months ago, I discovered this great book. Patrick Bet-David, in fact, recommended the Alpha Female Guide for Men and Marriage. And it's presenting the key of the problems in our marriages nowadays, the fact that we really don't understand the roles in the marriage. Mm-hmm. What's the role of the husband and what's the role of the wife? Mm-hmm. And if we have different roles, then I have a word, it's my last word in this domain, and that territory is your last word, and we don't need to get in conflict or have issues because the problem with miscommunication is the conflict behind. Mm-hmm. So understanding that we are influenced nowadays by our society, and as us as women, we try to overpower, understanding that, and to don't be the alpha female in the family, only at work. If we get to that step, then we are not going to have problems in our marriages.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, number 8, relationship roles. That's an area that affects marital happiness. And it's something that you can work on, and this would be a resource. And alpha female, is that what it's called? Alpha female. Okay. Josue.
Thanks for this. There's a couple things that I'll be honest, I thought some of it was kind of silly initially, like the communicating part. It's just so unnatural to me. But
yeah.
But it did bring me back to a fact of life that I find this a net positive. I'm a facts don't care about your feelings kind of guy, like Ben Shapiro says all the time. So I agree with our brother here, but as I've grown in marriage and everything, I've come to realize that feelings don't care about your facts either. And in order to make that work, going through this is beneficial, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing
Diana.
I really appreciate is going through this is like when we talk, we share, but it's like a sonar. If you get it back, that's one thing. But now going through the different questions, it's like a GPS. You're getting it from different areas, and you can really pinpoint what the real problem is.
Yes. Yes. Excellent. Okay, Lolita, and you'll be our last comment. Josiah, if you can pass that to her.
I was just going to say, I really like the idea of coming back at a certain time. Because I remember in my first marriage, we'd be like, well, we're not going to let the sun go down on our wrath. And I mean, hours and hours, and that's not healthy. And walking away indefinitely, if you're the one that's walking away, like, I need a minute, that is torturous to the other party. So I really liked it. I thought that was very wise. Come back in 10 minutes or whatever the timeline that you agree on. So I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah, if you're going to do a timeout and pull that timeout card, say, hey, I need a timeout. I need a break. The rule is you have to agree on when you're going to come back.
Yes.
So you have to say, okay, can we agree to come back in an hour and talk about this? And then hold to that agreement. Otherwise, it's easy to just let it go and then say, well, nobody's talking about it, so maybe it's gone. But it's not. It's still there. Okay, so I hope you've been blessed. There is a follow-up exercise that I would like to give to you if you are willing to do it. This is what you're going to practice for the remainder of January. It's page 7, or if it's on your clipboard, it's on the back of the sheet on your clipboard. Page 7 says, daily dialogue and daily compliments. Daily dialogue is an intentional effort to talk about your relationship rather than discussing your activities that day. The focus of this dialogue should be on your feelings about each other and your lives together. Set aside 5 minutes per day. It's an achievable goal, 5 minutes a day. And you discuss the following. What did you most enjoy about your relationship today? What was dissatisfying about your relationship today? How can you be helpful to each other? Daily compliments help you focus on the positive things you like about each other. Every day, give your partner at least one genuine compliment. That is your January to-do list. It has been fun to do this with you. I've never done a whole workshop together on communication. I think it went pretty good. I had fun. I hope you had fun. How many of you had seen that video with the nail? It was still funny, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, let's close in prayer together, shall we? Gracious Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for leading and guiding us. We give our relationships into your hands and ask that you would bless them. Help us to grow, Lord. We want to grow in our relationship with each other because we know that strong families really do make a strong church, and we want to be a strong church as we enter into the end of time and prepare for your soon coming. Bless each and every marriage that is represented here and their families, and I thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you, everyone.